Hello, hello, hello. In the last lecture, we saw what is first wave feminism is, what is liberal feminism is, and what is Marxist feminism is, right? But the issue with those feminism was a very fundamental issue whereby first wave feminism was the extension of masculinist paradigms of liberalism and Marxism. They talk about feminism through that lens, right? The women problem is not discussed that much. In liberal feminism, problem is of rights, right? Issue is of rights. Issue of women did not get as much analysis. The goal had a bigger analysis. The objective objective was there, but the issues of women were not much discussed. Right? It was very much limited to public sphere, and it was very much limited to liberal tradition of political discourse. Marxist feminism, on the other hand, only had men writing about it. Engels wrote about issues of women, but he wrote again through capitalist lens. Exploitation due to capitalism was the reason of subjugation of women, limitation of women, right? So the analysis was very much limited to the paradigms which talked about feminism, that is liberalism and Marxism, right? In second wave feminism, what the most scholar called is as radical feminism, right? Radical feminism is regarded as after second wave feminism is regarded as fully feminist theory. It is first fully feminist theory. Why? Because earlier writings about feminism were extensions of masculinist paradigms. Right? Now, to understand radical feminism more, I'll give you the debate, recent debate in India and across the world. Right? Across the world, there is this uh, there is this movement. There is this movement that is attacking traditional families, traditional family structure, traditional family structure, or as a more appropriate word will be heterogeneous families. That there is a man, there is a woman, and children. Man, women, and children, heterogeneous families. There is this movement that is brewing, that is attacking heterogeneous families. Talks about same-sex families, talks about uh, lesbian couples. In India, movement has been increasingly getting bigger about gay marriages. Right? Recently, recently, Supreme Court denied the right to marry to gay people and said that Parliament will allow it. But the movement is there. Right? It is truly feminist theory because it talks about women and problems of women, and contemporary relevance is there as well, as a lot of movements are going on regarding the issue, right? Where does the origin of radical feminism lie? It is with this women known as Betty Friedan. Betty Friedan. And a book. She wrote a book known as Feminine Mystique. Feminine Mystique. Right? Feminine Mystique. What does this mean? What does this mean? What she does, what she does is analyzing why women and white women in particular were unsatisfied with their lives. She interviewed a lot of white women and she tried to understand why they are so unsatisfied in their life. And after interviewing a lot of women, she says that why women, why women, white women who materially well off, white people in America, right, are materially very well off. When they have money, why after having money as well, why white women were unsatisfied, and explain that unsatisfaction among white women. She says, she says, she says there is this problem which has no name. Problem which has no name. She blames the problem which has no name. Later, she calls this problem which has no name as patriarchy. Patriarchy in her book Hegemony of sorry Patriarchy. Right. So origin of the word patriarchy goes back to Betty Friedan, and this is what this is the word this is the word which most of the feminists are working against. Patriarchy is something which are feminists working against. Right. To in patriarchy, what patriarchy means? It means hegemony of men. Patriarchy means power of men over women, domination of men. Right? What does patriarchy means? It means domination of men on women. What does patriarchy mean? In politics, does in political science, what does archy this word means? Right? Archy, oligarchy, oligarchy, monarchy. Archy, this word means, and patri has root word in patrilineal, father. So rule of men over women. This is what patriarchy means. So this is the work of Betty Friedan, whereby she analyzes why white women are unsatisfied. When she does not find any reason, when she does not find any reason why as they are unsatisfied, and she says that the reason why they are unsatisfied is due to patriarchy, is due to hegemony, rule, power of men over women. Right? Like patri, father, and archy. In her analysis, in her analysis or analysis of radical feminism as a whole, what does radical feminism say? What does radical feminist say? They say that family is a basic structure of our society. Family is a basic structure of our society. When family is a basic structure as our society happens is that if something is a basic structure, it is the most important cause why because of which socio-economic phenomena happen, because of which history moves, right? If radical feminists say that family is basic structure, family is basic structure, all other things will be created by it, right? Go back to understanding Marxism. Marxism says that economy is basic structure, everything else is reflection of it. The same thing is analyzed with respect to family by radical feminists, whereby they say that family is a basic structure, family is a basic structure, and that is why everything else is the reflection of it, right? So what they mean by family? By family is there is man, there is woman, and they have children. Man, woman, and children. This is the idea of family they have. That heterogeneous couple with children is family for them. What happens when there are heterogeneous couples, children is this is a man, this is a man, this is a woman, right? The roles of man and woman, traditional heterogeneous families are very limited. That man is earner, man is a breadwinner. Man will go out to get resources for the family, right? On the other hand, women will be a homemaker. Women will be a homemaker, will take care of children. Are very much limited in heterogeneous families. In traditional family structure, children learn by that. Children as things in the same way that man wins money, man wins bread, and women work in family, work within house. Women takes care of the house, right? This structure of family gets reflected in whole of society. When most of the societies are having these kind of families, when inside family gender roles are limited, in society as well these will be limited. Society will also see genders be limited, right? Genders to be limited by this extension that a family sees male male more important person because person that person wins trade, that person takes the resources to the house. Society will also see the same person that way because family sees and treats men and women differently because their roles are limited. If family is basic structure, society will also see see treats men and women differently because their roles are limited, right? If family and society treats men and women differently because their roles are limited, what happens is that there is more preference to male. Why there is more preference to male? Because the more important work according to society is done by men. So if if family is the problem, if family is the basic structure of the society and it is the problem, society is the problem, what does or what do radical feminists will try to do? What do radical feminists will try to do? They will try to do the basic, try to do what? They will try to change the basic structure of society, that is family. They will try to tack on family structure. They'll try to change heterogeneous family structure. Heterogeneous family structure. What does heterogeneous mean? It means there is a man, there is a woman, and they have different gender roles. Heterogeneous families, right? So, what do radical feminists try to change? They try to change basic structure of the society. For them, basic structure of the society is heterogeneous family, and by changing heterogeneous families, by changing basic structure, they try to attack the bigger problem, which is patriarchy. Right? They attack family structure. On the other hand, what does liberal feminism try to attack? Liberal feminism try to give civil political rights to women. What does Marxist feminism try to do? It tries to abolish capitalism so that women's role gets better as capitalism is exploitative. Right? End goal in liberal feminism and Marxist feminism are very different. On the other hand, in radical feminism, attack is directly on attack is directly attack is directly on the problem that exists, which is family. Right? So this was basics of radical feminism. They try to destroy the first institution of patriarchy, the first issue according to them is heterogeneous families, and they try to attack that only by changing the basic structure of society, that is heterogeneous families. They think the change in lives of women is possible. They analyze the issue or the problem which has no name according to them, problem of patriarchy, in more detail. They try to understand patriarchy in more detail. Right? For them, they say that patriarchy not natural. Patriarchy is not natural. This is the views of Betty Freedom. Betty Freedom's views are this, that patriarchy is not natural. What does she mean by patriarchy is not natural? Patriarchy for Betty Friedan, patriarchy for radical feminist is not natural. That it is not biologically possible, that it is not biologically, it is not naturally the way that it is being presented, that men are more powerful than women. Men have more agency than women. More men have more uh, will to do than women. More men have domination over women. It's not natural. If this is not natural, does radical feminists say? Radical feminists say that this is cultural. Patriarchy is a cultural thing. What does it mean by patriarchy is a cultural thing? That culture produces patriarchy and culture produces patriarchy, and the cycle repeats, right? In Indian culture, in Indian culture, when people are getting married, when people are getting married, if you listen to the vows they to each other, there is this there is this ritual, there is this ritual whereby they take vows, take care of each other. The most of the vows that a woman takes are to take care of household. Of the vows that a man takes is to take care of that household in a different way, that providing money, providing resources to household. This is Indian culture. That at the start of an heterogeneous marriage, the vows which are taken are very limited. The roles which are being assigned to each other are very limited, right? The union, the union happens in Indian culture because of only one reason, that they get into that contract. Women will take care of household, will take care of the family, women will take care of that man and his children, his family, and man will provide for her. This is Indian culture, which produces patriarchy and reproduces it as well. This this conception of uh, patriarchal thing, or the patriarchy, is also seen in movies, right? Movies present women in a different way and men in a different way. That gets imbibed in new generation, that this is what we would we would have to do when we are getting into a situation like marriage, right? So culture produces and reproduces patriarchy, and that is how patriarchy maintains its rule on women. Not, it is not natural, it is cultural. To analyze this cultural domination of patriarchy over women, Betty Friedan gives some reasons why or how it is being happening. She gives roles of myths, so as to why patriarchy is being produced and reproduced. Role of myths. How patriarchy is being sustained. Role of myths. First myth that she analyzes is by a psychologist known as Sigmund Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is a big psychologist, a bit cuckoo kaka, a bit mad, but still have some sense to himself, but still a bit all over the place. Not really fun to read if you are in today's time and space, right? Betty Friedan analyzes or criticizes Sigmund Freud, whereby Sigmund Freud says that most important most important role of women is to appear attractive. If someone says this in today's time and place, the backlash person will be immense, and rightly so. So Sigmund Freud says that most important role of women is to appear attractive. Now what happens? Happens, a big psychologist says things like this, right? This is what Betty Friedan analyzes. When Sigmund Freud says that most important role of women is to appear attractive. By attractive, he means traditionally attractive, right? So what happens when myths like this are propagated? What happens is early marriages. This is what Betty Friedan is saying. Early marriages. When most important role of a woman is to appear attractive, what happens is early marriages. It is a myth that age women lose their attractiveness. Women will lose their attractiveness, right? With age, women will lose their attractiveness. Now, because of these early marriages, what happens? What happens is that women are not able to get education. Women are not able to get college education, higher education. When they are not able to get higher education, college education, then what happens is they don't have skills. They don't have skills. They don't have uh, they don't have skills, and they don't have skills. And when women don't have skills because they are going for early marriages, they are not going for college education, they don't have skills. When they don't have skills, position in economy is very low. Their importance in economy is very low. When skills are low, there are low wages. When wages are low, what happens? There is low status, right? There is lower status. And this lower status is seen in family, in society, right? This was the first myth Betty Friedan debunked. She says that the view of Freud that most important role of women is to appear attractive. What happens with views is that women have to go for early marriages because there is this myth that with age women lose their attractiveness. Women go for early marriages, they are not able to get quality education. When they have to get they don't get good quality education. They are low on skills. They are low on skills. Their position in economy is very low. They get low wages and they have low status family. They have low status in society. This was the first myth that Betty Friedan analyzed. Right? Uh, with age, women lose their attractiveness. This Freud guy must go to some website and see the most categories which men see, but alas, nevertheless. The second myth that Betty Friedan analyzes is magazines. Role of magazines. Mind you, this is 1960s, 1970s USA. So she will talk about her time only. So she analyzes role of magazines in development and and sustenance of patriarchy, of myths. What does magazines portray? Magazines portray women as good housewives. Another thing that they portray, working women are narcissist. They say that good women are housewives and working women are narcissists. Right? So so these kind of myths, this kind of portrayal of women leads to formation of culture which sustains patriarchy. Right? So this was analysis of Betty Freedom. Right? Now we are going to understand what what does radical feminism means, with the view that what does it say about family more, what does it say about public and political more, what is the view of radical feminist on sex and gender, and how they view equality as well. So we'll start with fundamental assumptions of radical feminism. We'll start with fundamental assumptions of radical feminism. Right? There are three fundamental assumptions that radical feminists have. First one being they see sex and gender differently. The second thing is they say personal is political. Third thing that say is differentiated inequality. Differentiated equality, not inequality, differentiated equality. What do they mean by saying sex is not equal to gender? What do they mean by that? First thing, sex is not gender. Sex is not gender. For radical feminist, sex is natural. It is natural. It is by birth that I am a man, someone else is woman, uh, someone else is some other gender, right? For some sex. Radical feminist, gender is cultural. This is what this is what they are trying to say. For them, sex is natural. Sex is biological. For them, gender is cultural. Gender is social, socio-cultural. Right? What do they mean by gender is socio-cultural? What do they mean by gender is socio-cultural? They mean in sense of discrimination towards gender. Discrimination towards gender. Right? Sex is natural, sex is biological, but the position that the society, gender have in the society, that is cultural, that is socio-cultural. This is what they are trying to, right? They don't go into analysis of sex and gender more, right? For them, sex is natural, sex is biological. For them, gender is socio-cultural. Gender for them is discrimination towards gender. Gender for them is patriarchy, right? That means they subscribe to sex. They don't subscribe to gender. Why don't subscribe to gender? Gender has because gender has negative effect, exploitative effect on women, right? For them, gender is the sole reason why discrimination on women happens. This gender for them is socio-cultural. Analyzing this discrimination towards gender more, they say patriarchy. Patriarchy is violence against women. They say patriarchy is violence against women, right? They say the culture of patriarchy is what keeping women secondary, right? Because of this cultural view of patriarchy, because of this culture of patriarchy, there are things like feticide, there are things like infanticide, there are things like mutilation of female genitalia. This is a big issue. I will explain this issue, but this is a very big issue in African countries. Mutilation of female genitalia, the issue of honor killings, right? Caste honor killings. Why does caste honor killings happen? Because they see that person or the woman of my family, because I belong to a higher caste, cannot get married to someone who is from lower caste, right? Women are seen as respect, or as in Hindi, इज्जत की इज्जत. Men are seen as घर की इज्जत. They derive their respect from the women of the house, right? When women are carriers of that respect, women are carriers of that culture, what happens is things like honor killing. So patriarchy shows itself things like feticide, through things like mutilation of female genitalia, things like honor killings. Feticide is very simple, that sex of sex determination techniques will understand it is the sex of the fetus. If it is female, they will get abortion done, right? Mutilation of female genitalia. What does it mean? Uh, in some African tribes, there is this belief that the vagina should be good looking. And that is why they cut some of the part of that vagina with blade, so that it is good looking. I don't know what is the uh, reasoning behind it, but that is the practice that happens in some African countries. They cut a part of vagina, make it look more appealing, right? This is reflection of patriarchal mindset that tribes have. Honor killings as well, right? And the most horrific the most horrific reflection of patriarchy, the most horrific propagation of patriarchy is seen and felt by women through institution of rape. I am saying institution of rape because feminists, radical feminists, have called it. There is this scholar known as Susan Brown Miller, SBM. Brown Miller. She says that rape is an institution of patriarchy. What does this rape is an institution of patriarchy mean? Right? For Susan Brown Miller, rape rape is nothing to do with sexual desire. Rape is not about sexual desire. Rape is to terrorize women. Right? Rape is to terrorize women, and rape is to keep dominating women. Right? Rape is to rape is nothing rape has nothing to do with sexual desire, according to Susan Brown Miller, whereby she says that rape is an institution of patriarchy, rape is an instrument of patriarchy to terrorize women and to dominate women, right? Rape is an institution, rape is an instrument, terrorize women to dominate women teach and to teach lessons to women who have gone against social norms. If you hear the statements of culprits of Nirbhaya case, they give horrific reason. They give horrific reason so as to why those animals committed rape. They say that they wanted to teach a lesson to Nirbhaya so that the next girl will not uh, will not go out with their friend, with their boyfriend, with their girlfriend in night. This was their reasoning that they gave in court of law to teach lesson to women who have gone against social norms, right? So patriarchy, according to radical feminist, is cultural. Patriarchy, patriarchy going, keeps gender, gender and gendered norms going in the society. How does patriarchy keeps gender and gender norms, which helps exploitation of women going in society by using violence against women, by using feticides, by using mutilation of female genitalia, by honor killings. But the most important and most analyzed aspect of institution which keeps patriarchy going, which keeps gender norms going, is rape. Whereby Susan Brown Miller says that rape is an institution is used to teach women lessons that they should not go against social norms. Rape is an institution to terrorize women. Rape is an institution to dominate women. This is what this is what radical feminists mean by mean by sex, gender, patriarchy, and institution of patriarchy. This this distinction of sex and gender, we are going to understand it more through a different lens as given by Judith Butler in her analysis of gender and gender fluidity. I hope you understood radical feminism till now, right? I hope you understood radical feminism till now. Concepts which are not yet done, right? I'll start with the next concept, which is we understood radical feminist view on sex and gender. Now I'll start with their view, their view on their view that they say personal is political, right? I start with radical feminists. First view, first assumption we have completed, whereby they say that sex and gender are two different things. Now we'll understand the second assumption with which radical feminism have, whereby they say personal is political.